Hi everyone, this is Kathy with CDFS. Welcome to the last all stakeholder meeting and webinar. So thank you for joining us and making it this far. Next slide, please. So how to listen in. All of the attendees on the webinar are in listen-in only mode, but there are two ways to connect to audio: through your phone or through the computer. Next slide. And there are different ways that you can ask questions. For those joining us via webinar, you can write your questions on the panel on the right-hand side, the question pane, and we will try to get to your questions at the end of the webinar. For those in person, there were some index cards right outside when you signed in. You can feel free to jot down your questions on the index cards, and then we'll collect it towards the end, and then again respond. And then I'll be passing out index cards later too if you did not grab any. All of the materials from the webinar will be posted on the CDSS page, and also the webinar will be recorded. Next slide. So for today, we have quite a few presenters, so thank you to those joining us. We'll do a welcome with a partnership in focus. We'll do a policy overview, kind of level setting if it's just your first time joining us. We'll do some statewide volume updates, have our presenters share reports from the field, and then we'll do updates on our implementation strategies, and then go into discussion and questions. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to Alexis Fernandez, Acting Branch Chief of CalFresh.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to folks who are joining us on the phone. We'll start out by just acknowledging that it is our last all-stakeholder meeting for CalFresh expansion, though there'll be plenty of other stakeholder engagement opportunities which we're going to be talking about shortly. But really a shout out to the Californians for SSI Coalition, representing clients and client advocates, and California's County Human Service Agencies, both groups who have been with us from pre-implementation all the way to where we are today, 4 months in. We thank everybody for their continued presence and active participation. It's a lot of stakeholder meetings, a lot of advisory groups, a lot of off the schedule phone calls and ad hoc meetings. So really appreciate the strong partner presence that we had throughout the entire implementation process. With that, we are going to go ahead and jump into the policy level set that we customarily include at the top of our meetings in case by any chance this is your first all-stakeholder expansion meeting. So as a reminder, the state budget for 18-19 enacted in June 2018, allows older adults and people with disabilities who are receiving SSI to apply for CalFresh for the first time since the 1970s. There's no change or reduction to the SSI SSP benefit, and our CAPI recipients will be receiving a $10, or have received already, a $10 per person grant increase. And then just our secondary reminder here on the policy side of the house, for those ongoing CalFresh households who implemented the expansion and had an SSI recipient member previously excluded as part of their household, depending on the impact of on the household, will be eligible for either just CalFresh and Supplemental Nutrition Benefit Program benefits, or a transition over to the new Transitional Nutrition Benefit Program. Okay, next slide, please. So we already talked a little bit about, our stakeholder engagement process over time and gave our thank yous. I also wanted to mention that in 2020, and we mentioned this at our last meeting, the CalFresh and Nutrition Branch will launch regular stakeholder engagement opportunities across all the work we do, so special projects, policy, outreach. If you love CalFresh, this will be the place to be. We mentioned last time that we're going to be seeking stakeholder input on what that looks like in 2020, as well as feedback on this stakeholder engagement process. So we have a survey that is now live. We will be sending out a link to everyone in attendance. We'll also be posting that link on our website. We ask that you share your feedback with us by October 18th. So again, what worked and what didn't work about the current just coming down to winding down actually, the CalFresh expansion stakeholder engagement process. What would you like to see replicated or done differently? What are our lessons learned that we can incorporate as we look to 2020? And if internet surveys are not your thing, that is okay. You can just send us your feedback through the CalFresh SSI at dss.ca.gov email. Of course, if you can, we'd love that you submit through the SurveyMonkey tool. It allows us to pull that data very easily. But again, also welcome via email if the online survey tool is not for you. So today we're going to be providing an update on implementation progress thus far, highlighting ongoing outreach and other implementation strategies. We have a lot of partners on the phone, so we'll try our best to move through the agenda at a relatively quick pace. But again, really wanted to spend the majority of our time hearing from folks, looking at the data, and getting a sense of where we are 4 months in. To start, as we have done the last few months, we want to start by grounding our work in our client impact or client stories. And today on the line, we have Kate, who is the Executive Director at the heart of the City Farmers Market in San Francisco. She's going to be talking a little bit about the impact of CalFresh expansion on SSI recipients who shop at that farmers market, where CalFresh food benefits have been accepted for quite some time, but now have that new clientele available to them. So, Kate, if you're on the line, I will hand it off to you.
Yes, I'm here. Hi, this is Kate, everybody. As she said, I'm the Executive Director of Heart of the City Farmers Market. We're a pretty unique type of farmers market. We're an independent farmer-operated nonprofit farmers market that served a very extremely low-income community in downtown San Francisco since 1981. We operate in San Francisco's Civic Center above the busy Civic Center BART station. And you might know us because we have the iconic view of City Hall in the background. But because we serve this Tenderloin neighborhood, this extremely dense and diverse neighborhood, it's actually the densest and most diverse neighborhood in the nation, but also is extremely low income, has a primarily SRO housing stock, and has a high rate of drug addiction and crime. Out of all 11 districts in San Francisco, our district has 40% of IV drug users. Unfortunately, we're constantly dealing with challenges that you don't see in most farmers markets, and as a result, we have a mission that leans a little bit more toward public health and toward helping this community be as healthy as it possibly can. And especially now that San Francisco has the highest cost of living in the nation, it is our neighborhood, the Tenderloin, with its SRO housing stock. SRO is single resident occupancy units. You guys probably know all about that. But that makes it one of the more affordable places to live in the city. So we're seeing a lot of low-income families saturated in the area surrounding our market. There's also a lot of language barriers that we face. But unfortunately, the San Francisco Department of Public Health reports that the average life expectancy for people living in this community around us is 20 years lower than in neighborhoods just a half a mile away. And this is due to preventable diet-related diseases that reflect a lack of access to fresh foods in this community because it's dominated by liquor stores and fast food joints. So we as a farmers market provide a pretty critical service in this community to bring fresh fruits and vegetables. And then our mission is to try to make those affordable and accessible for people living below the poverty line. But of course, we want to do that for everybody, but we focus on people below the poverty line. As a result, we've accepted EBT as payment for produce since 1981. On our very first day, we accepted $14 in EBT, and we love to say that now we accept $448,000 a year. That's the number that I've just pulled together for the last 12 months. That makes us the largest farmers market EBT program in California and one of the 3 to 5 largest in the nation. So we're quite successful at what we do. And we were really excited to hear that seniors were going to be eligible for this because up to this point, we have not been able to offer this to some of the most vulnerable people in our neighborhood. Seniors struggling to age in place and struggling to remain in this community, even though the cost of living is getting frankly absurd right now. San Francisco has a lot of problems to tackle, and this is only one of them. So what we've done at Heart of the City Farmers Market, one of the many efforts that we make to increase food security in our community is implemented Market Match. That's an incentive that encourages people to use an EBT card to shop for produce from local farmers. And if they come, we will match their purchase every single day they shop. At our farmers market, we match it up to $5. Some of our partners will match it up to $10. You'll hear that because we have such a high volume of people accessing this service at our farmers market. Right now, we're serving over 1,000 EBT card holders a day. We can only give a limit up to $5. We will match everybody's EBT purchases up to $5. So if somebody chooses to shop all 3 of our market days, which is open Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday, they can access $5 on each one of those market days, which really helps to double what's already a pretty low benefit amount. So over the past 12 months, we have distributed $295,000 in market match incentives, and that makes us the largest program for incentive distribution in California and one of the largest in the nation. And we're also sort of looked at as a model to show how this can be successful to drive people to make healthy choices using food assistance, and also to show how a program of our size can be managed on the ground in a way that still keeps it grassroots and still keeps it a comfortable place for people to access, where they feel welcomed and appreciated and a part of making a healthy change in the food system. So we know that the community that we serve is extremely dense, Tenderloin that surrounds us, and we're also in Soma, Civic Center. There's a lot of poverty concentrated around us. We knew that we really needed to target this community for the SSI cash out reversal because there are so many seniors in that neighborhood. We have seniors aging in place in the SRO housing stock, as I explained. We also have a lot of senior centers in the neighborhood. And we just know from being on the ground for decades now how many senior customers come and shop, and especially seniors across cultural barriers or language barriers, come and shop with our farmers to access fruits and vegetables, and how much feedback we've received that seniors have been suffering up to that point, not being able to afford it and not being able to take advantage of what so many other people are able to take advantage, which is a CalFresh card. And also I did want to emphasize that our market is known as the most affordable farmers market in San Francisco, and that's because we've grown up with our neighborhood. Many of our farmers have been with us for decades and have grown up to try to offer a product that we can use in an effort to make produce more affordable for this community. So we have people and seniors traveling from all over the city on public transit to reach us because we're located above Civic Center BART, which is a central hub for public transit in San Francisco. So we knew that we were going to see a lot of SSI customers start getting a CalFresh card and starting to take advantage of this market match incentive program that we have, but we were not prepared for the absolute overwhelming wave of people that we started seeing beginning in June. Now, because we had received this feedback for so many decades that seniors were being left out of this food assistance program, we attempted to make partnerships with other groups in San Francisco, such as EatSF, to get them money for food in different ways. If they could get involved in programs, even though they were on disability or maybe, on SSI, they could still access money for food. So we knew through these programs that we already had a lot of seniors, and we knew that they were going to also get onto CalFresh. And so we reached out for a grant from the Stupke Foundation at that point to help us put a CalFresh application assistance site at our market information tent, which is the point of sale for an EBT card, so that as these senior customers are walking by, we can help clarify some issues for them and get them involved in this program right away. And the grant that we received enabled us to hire a new staff member and to have those services permanently available at our site, at our market information tent for the next 12 months. We're quite proud of that. And then since about mid-June, participation in our EBT program and our market match program has absolutely exploded. It increased 71% over what we expected to see in August based on numbers last year. And then the amount of sales increased only 41%. So that shows you that we have a lot more people participating, but with small amounts. And we know that those are the SSI customers who are coming in because they're living on extraordinarily limited budgets right now. And CalFresh participation on our busiest market day, that means the number of people who came with a CalFresh card, increased 90% over what we expected in August based on our trends for August. And then the sales on that busiest market day increased 60% over that. So I do want to say that our market days are 10.5 hours long, which is incredibly rare for farmers market, but we are with the food justice mission. We want to be open before people go to work, after they come to work. And we know a lot of people don't have cars, so we have to be accessible. But within those 10 to 10.5 hours, we're helping, on our busiest day last month, we helped 1,227 customers just in one day. And that means we helped one EBT customer on average every 30 seconds. But I want to emphasize that we have crunch times where we were helping one EBT customer every 10 seconds, just trying to churn it through. And we have almost no choice but to pull back a little bit on our customer service and orientation side, and on making people feel a little bit more comfortable taking advantage of the food assistance program, because we have so many challenges right now with people being uncomfortable with, especially across cultural barriers, taking advantage of those services, that it's very important for us to have a more personalized approach to this. So we immediately opened 2 EBT lines within the first couple of weeks. We went from, now these are not EBT only lines, these are everything lines, but we only had one EBT machine we were using. So we opened another EBT machine so that we could help EBT customers in 2 different lines at that point. But unfortunately, those lines are still about 20 people long, both of them. And we are doing everything that we can to try to reduce the amount of time that these EBT customers need to stand, because we know quite a few of them are SSI, on SSI, and we just don't know what they're facing. So it's somewhat of a time of upheaval for us to figure out how to get this much food assistance out as quickly as possible in a way that is conscious of the new customers that we're serving. We are being as careful as we can to make chairs available, but it's an ongoing challenge that we're trying to work our way through. We're hiring an additional staff person now to help us with people quicker through the line, and are considering actually opening 3 EBT lines now, which is unheard of for a farmer's market, but I think it's going to happen for the first time at ours. And I also want to emphasize that we are continuing a unique focus that we have in our community on cultural competent customer service. We try to get as many languages down to the information tent as we can. We translate as many things as we can. And that way people are not in any way feeling like we're not fully answering their questions, because we're trying to create long-term relationships with these customers, because we know that it has an impact on their fruit and vegetable consumption. And one of the main pieces of feedback from our SSI customers I wanted to share, and a kind of sad feedback, is that a lot of people are receiving incredibly low benefit amounts. And that is because, and that's especially challenging for people in San Francisco, because the cost of living is so outrageous, and that the income limits, the standards placed across California when looked at in the context of San Francisco is woefully short of what's needed to be able to eat in a healthy way. And so that's why programs like Farmers Market's Market Match program, or incentive program to double the benefit amounts for customers, has been so valuable. And that's why I think we're seeing so many customers taking advantage of our program right now, because it's a way for them to take what is a lower benefit amount than they would need to be able to supplement their budget to afford fruits and vegetables in San Francisco, and then double that as long as they're able to come and visit us regularly. Okay, so that's it. I hope I kept that to 10 minutes. Let me know if anybody has any questions.
Kate, thank you so much. I think what you shared exemplifies not only the impact of CalFresh benefits, but the clear need that we're seeing not only in San Francisco, but in other counties as people continue to come in, and apply, but also make the most of their CalFresh benefits. So thank you. We'll do questions at the end. So Kate, if you can stay on the line, Kathy will let you know if any questions come in through chat as well.
Okay, that sounds great.
Okay, so we will transition now to our statewide volume updates. So we're going to go ahead and walk through these as we have in the past. I will highlight that closer to the end of the presentation, we're going to provide some additional data updates based on the CalFresh expansion data on the data dashboard. So more to come, but we'll start with our updates across application volume, issuances, our outreach partnerships, and information call line volume. So next slide, please. On this graph, which you've seen before, we are looking at total statewide application volume. So these are not applications specific to the expansion. This is just total volume statewide. What you'll see here is that we did peak in June, as was anticipated, and we're seeing some declines across the state. So for August, we were down to 200,000 applications, still above our April kind of baseline, but definitely trending downward. So we're going to be talking about some ongoing outreach activities to keep that volume higher than average. Next slide, please. So this slide here is EBT issuances, so the number of households that received an EBT issuance. We'll get to dollars in just a minute. And you'll see that August is still trending upward, and that, of course, are the additional households, mostly driven by the expansion of CalFresh. And what we are seeing as the trend data is that our newly eligible households tend to be a little smaller than our typical households. So you'll see on the next slide that the overall household count is up. So is the benefit. I'll ignore that, and I'll ask Shanda to go to the next slide. And this is dollars, and so you'll see that the increase is still trending upward, but is not as dramatic as on the EBT issuances, because those, again, are households, and these are sheer dollars, and these are smaller households that we're adding to our caseload, so they have smaller benefit amounts. Next slide, please. This is our outreach volume indicators. So the blue bar are the getcalfresh.org applications, still holding relatively steady and above the April baseline at just over 43,000. Our SSA joint processing procedures, the numbers for August were just under 4,000. So we had that initial boom, and we're seeing the numbers decrease over time. But again, relatively expected, as SSA is assisting clients who are naturally coming to their offices for SSA business. And so those numbers are declining. And as we see more months, I think we're going to hit like a hold steady rate, kind of an average number that we expect from SSA, but definitely not the original 9,000 applications. I think that was good luck on our part, but that is declining as well. And then through our other CBO partners, 3,500 applications. And the good news is I think it's holding pretty steady with July. So it's nice to see that that number is holding steady from that initial boom. So we have still boots on the ground, if you will, reaching out to clients who maybe might be a little bit more difficult to reach, aren't running or coming in through Get CalFresh or through SSA or through our county partners, and that is a good thing that they're keeping those numbers high. Okay. This next slide is the information line call volume. So again, like our other slides, we're seeing that relative decline, but a hold steady. So in August, just around 21,500 calls to the CalFresh information line, still up from the April baseline of about 18,000. So again, as we see some of our social media campaigns roll out, we're going to be talking about that. We see the radio ads play out. We see our community partners spreading the word. We're hoping that that call volume does remain relatively steady and above our April baseline. Okay, next slide. So here we have the call volume numbers by language. So in August, you'll see that primarily we had calls come in Spanish. So a switch, well, it was always been primarily Spanish in green. And then our other languages, Russian, Vietnamese, Cantonese, and Korean holding relatively steady. And then the no selection at 2,000, just over 2,000 phone calls. And again, trending downward as we see on the other charts as well. Is no selection English? No selection is just no selection. It might be that they speak English or some other language that they cannot select. And so we are calling that no selection on purpose because we really don't know what their preferred language is. Okay, so go to the next slide. So where we want to spend the majority of our time today, and Kate got us started on a good foot, is reports from the field. So we have with us folks from San Bernardino, Ventura, LA, and Imperial counties. And then we're also going to hear from our partners in the food bank world, the Association of Food Banks, and the California Department on Aging. So we'll go ahead and start with San Bernardino. We have Andrea Bradboy on the line, Program Specialist with San Bernardino County. And if you're ready, you can go ahead and kick us off.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. I hope you can hear me. Again, my name is Andrea, and I'm with the County of San Bernardino. We launched, or I should say, our Director of Human Services launched a campaign entitled it One Coordinated Effort. And that was just to bring us together as a human services division or department. But that campaign started at the perfect time in which the expansion was being implemented. So with that, we had a lot of coordination within our own human services network. We realized that we had the infrastructure to meet the demands of the SSI population in regards to outreach and application assistance, as well as the coordinated effort of compiling our data in preparation for the CDSS data dashboard. So for instance, our Department of Aging and Adult Services decided to take the approach of 100% social worker outreach. This was done with our in-home supportive services social workers, as well as those that monitor the AgeWise program and Public Guardian. So whenever they visit a person in their home, they bring the CalFresh marketing materials with them. They always leave the CalFresh marketing materials, but if somebody is interested, they also obtain the CalFresh application and return those to their various TAD locations that are near their office. We also have the senior information and assistant staff that are located at various DAWS offices that are there in-house that are able to take applications as well. So again, we have a no wrong door policy approach, but DAWS has really offered themselves on the front line of obtaining and assisting us in the processing of those applications. That has worked extremely well, and we're really grateful for that. Also, they began marketing to the potential IHSS providers during their, let's say, when they're coming in to fill out their employment paperwork. They also receive information in regards to the CalFresh expansion and how they can assist their clients in obtaining CalFresh benefits. Secondly, we were able to connect with our community partners and connect them with our County Nutrition Action Partnership, which is facilitated by Public Health. We noticed that we have communities in our Morongo Basin area, which consist of Yucca Valley, 29 Palms, and Joshua Tree, where the housing is more affordable. So, of course, the individuals that receive SSI, SSP, or any type of disability, or even retirement for our elderly population, they're able to settle there and actually afford to live. So the community partners that we already had out there, they weren't necessarily connected with the County Nutrition Action Partnership. We were able to connect them with Public Health so that they can get the information on summer meal programs, even for seniors, support physical activity for those residents in the area, or even utilize the mobile fresh bus, which we have, which is a bus that has fresh fruits and vegetables that travels to those locations that are not near farmers markets, or maybe they're in remote locations, and those buses are able to take the EBT card and sell those fresh fruits and vegetables to those people and low-income residents in that area. So a lot of our community partners were really happy with that partnership. Our CNAP meets on the second Tuesday of every month, and so they've been able to get the direct information, not only from us, but from the Department of Public Health. And so they're able to see what's coming down in those efforts of promoting healthy eating and healthy food choices. So we also had a collaboration with our Research Outcomes and Support Division. We weren't sure at the time that we launched after June 1st what type of data we would need. We were kind of reaching and grasping for straws, but we knew initially by the end of May that we definitely needed to track the amount of online applications that were coming in once Get CalFresh launched in our county. So we were able to consolidate that information, but also work on it and flesh out, how many were coming in, what the average benefit amount was, what our processing timeframes were, as we started going within the first 2 weeks after June 1st, we were able to use that information to adjust our staffing levels, moving staff from continuing to intake so that we can maintain those application timeframes as well as the interview processing timeframes that we needed in order to maintain compliance. So that was very helpful. And as the CDSS data dashboard launched, it was really great having that information because that allowed us to kind of vet their data and then maybe provide some feedback, but also know if, the information that was being received and posted online was actually accurate. So we were really grateful for their assistance in that, and they were all hands on deck, whatever we needed, making those revisions and getting us the reports timely, which was excellent. But of course, the leader was our Transitional Assistance Department, who spearheaded this initiative. We hosted 2 community-based organization workshops back in April, one in the high desert and one down here in the valley area. In that, we had over 200 community-based and faith-based organizations receive the information for the CalFresh expansion, as well as information in regards to, how to become an EBT authorized vendor through FNS, things like that. So a lot of people, really took that information and, started submitting those applications to FNS. And, they were really appreciative, to understand the difference between a group living agency and maybe a board and care, to hear it firsthand. And, we were able to get a lot of Q&A and dialogue going, which then kind of influenced our outreach to them as we went along. What type of materials did they needed? What were they asking? What was the common questions that they had? And so we were able to publish that to them, which was really helpful. We also completed our reallocation of staff. That was prior to the June 1st implementation date. We began shifting staff around probably in April. We started completing training for those that weren't used to intake application processing. We started going through the processing procedures for income and application timeframes, dealing with ES, interview techniques, and we were able to get them online prior to the 5/22 rush that we really found at the end of May, which was extremely helpful. But also the Transitional Assistance Department took the lead in implementing a Customer Service Center SSI add person call queue. And I believe that I went into detail about that a couple calls ago in all stakeholder meeting. But this call queue was a designated queue specifically for those that had active CalFresh cases but had an excluded SSI individual on that case. And if they chose to make a voluntary request, they were placed in a specific queue for that action, and they were transferred to a worker that was designated specifically for that queue to be able to take the action from start to finish and to add that individual. So that was really helpful in as far as maintaining our continuing caseload and getting those add person actions completed timely. So again, we just took a simple approach in utilizing the infrastructure that we already had in place, which, we had our 5 fingers to the ground in our community, and we were able to reach out in new areas and able to collaborate in a way where we didn't have to reinvent the wheel, which was extremely helpful. So our One Coordinated Effort campaign was extremely successful. We've noticed that the information has been able to get to our community not only fast, but we've been able to get accurate information to our community. We've been able to help remote areas that we have had issues in, infiltrating before, because we were able to use other venues or vehicles such as public health or our Department of Aging and Adult Services. So, we're looking for this to be our model for any other type of changes from here on out, because ultimately food security affects all of our human services departments. And we realize that we are all, weaved together when it comes to making the health of our constituents better and improving their needs and their food choices. So that's it for me. And if you have any questions for me at the end, I'll be here to answer. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you, Andrea. I think we might steal your tagline eventually. There'll be other one coordinated effort campaigns. So I want to introduce our next speaker. So from Ventura County, we have Margarita Cabral, who's a CalFresh program analyst. Margarita, are you on the line?
Hi, good afternoon. This is Margarita. I hope everybody could hear me as well. So what strategies did Ventura County have for maintaining timeliness? During the CalFresh expansion, all intake staff shared in the increased workload. Even though My Benefits CalWIN, or My BCW for the CalWIN Consortia, and the Code for America applications increased more than walk-in applications. So across the board, all intake staff shared the same workload. Applications were transferred, balancing workload based on automatic triggers each Monday and Thursday morning. And the message that everyone shares in the increased work equally was stressed to all eligibility staff. Again, fairness is important. Intake staff did work considerable overtime, more than during open enrollment for Medi-Cal. And this overtime was also offered to ongoing staff with CalFresh intake experience. So that helped tremendously. Support staff was also prepared for the outpouring or the volume that we were anticipating of applications for CalFresh, and application registration capability was increased prior to the CalFresh expansion to avoid any bottlenecks. The same message that everyone shares in the increased work equally was stressed to the support staff. So, everybody was aware that the CalFresh application volume would increase during this time. The CalFresh expansion was not as large as we feared, although intake staff were working over capacity and intake applications did reach a 12-month high. And so during the CalFresh expansion, the CalFresh applications were prioritized. So Medi-Cal application timeliness was affected just a tad. The Medi-Cal application timeliness decreased from about 95% to 85% for 2 months, which is still fairly good for the timeliness for Medi-Cal. And staff and supervisors worked really hard, and managers did a great job motivating, and so kudos to all our Ventura County eligibility staff for that. Next slide, please. As far as the outreach efforts in Ventura County, to engage SSI, SSP recipients in the CalFresh program, Ventura County continues to visit the local senior centers, and we provide information regarding the CalFresh program to all the centers. In addition, Ventura County partnered with Tri-Counties. Tri-County staff will be assisting with applications for the disabled individuals they provide assistance to, which most, if not all, receive SSI, SSP benefits. So we're currently in the process of providing some type of training for the assisters so that they can also engage or provide information to the disabled individuals they serve at their centers. And as far as in-reach, our staff continues to provide information to the SSI qualified Medicare beneficiaries or the QIMBY on our QIMBY caseload, and IHSS recipients who receive SSI, SSP and do not have an active CalFresh case, and this information is provided at the time of their renewals or their redetermination. Any questions or any questions at the end? I'll be available to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you, Margarita. Yeah, we'll take questions at the end. I just want to thank you for addressing the topic of timeliness and the active kind of approach that Ventura has taken. I know with the increased volume, that's something we're tracking carefully in all counties, so it's great that you were able to share techniques for managing that. So next we have Delora Ellis-Gant from Los Angeles County. She is the CalFresh Director. Delora, are you on the line?
Yes, good afternoon, everyone.
Thank you.
All right, so I'll go ahead and give a quick update on things that Los Angeles did to prepare for the CalFresh expansion. As many of you are aware, as shared on previous calls, we kind of gave refresher series to all of our eligibility staff that, especially for policies that relate to the elderly and disabled population, and we also offered that same training to our outreach partners. We did a three-pronged strategy approach for enrolling the SSI recipients into the program. We had an approach for our active CalFresh households that had excluded SSI, SSP household members. And then we had an approach for our in-home supportive services recipients that also received SSI. And then we had a new category we called the new. And these were individuals that were not known to our systems. They were not known through our CalFresh, Medi-Cal, CalWorks as excluded household folks, nor were they known to our in-home supportive services systems. So with those three strategies, we had set a goal as well to enroll 22,917 excluded household members by November, and it appears that we are on track with that goal. We're at 34% of that goal, with having enrolled over 10,683 individuals that were excluded from a CalFresh active case, and now they were actually enrolled either at their SAR 7, at their recertification, upon request, or when there was a household composition change. We here in Los Angeles notified all of these individuals of the change, this population under Strategy 1, by sending outbound calls to them. Also, text messaging as well was used, and in addition to an informational notice. Our second strategy was focused on our in-home supportive services recipients that receive SSI and are their providers. The department knew that we can leverage the use of our social workers that conduct assessments, either an initial assessment or a reassessment. We can use them to inform the SSI recipients of the policy change during that assessment appointment, and that they could either connect the individual at during that appointment by connecting them to apply by phone, by connecting them to our intake customer service center, or they could connect them to apply using the getcalfresh.org app, or leaving what we developed as a pass it on card, which was a business-sized card that told them of the policy change and how easy it was to apply. So that strategy, we call it strategy number 2. What we have been able to successfully enroll over 70,000 individuals onto the CalFresh program. That's 45% of our targeted goal. The third strategy we had was for, again, those that we considered new, and these were individuals that were not known to our systems. We have enrolled to date approximately 46,412, or 84% of the targeted goal of 55,000 folks onto the program. That's in our new strategy number 3. I want to step back to share with you that for strategy 2, which was our in-home supportive services population that received SSI, we send informational notices to them, informing them of the policy change, in addition to a text message if they had a cell phone number on file with us, and an outbound call. And all of those outreach informational marketing material was sent to these households prior to the visit of the social worker, so the social worker would have a better opportunity to dispel any myths or address any questions that the person may have, the in-home supportive services consumer may have when they were there visiting in their home during the reassessment. We thought that this would be a great way of making sure that we could address any myths or dispel any myths that the consumer may have, and also to encourage them with the trusted partner, the social worker, to apply for CalFresh. We did a lot with outreach. So the department, as you know, we have a health and nutrition mobile unit, so we ensure that all of the staff that were deployed in the community, every community event from May all the way to current, always include a lot of information for the SSI recipients to inform them of the policy change. And we also did partnerships with some of our current partners and some new partners. So to date, we have about 88 CalFresh application assisters. And these assisters are community trusted partners that focus on the targeted population. And we provided them with training, we provided them with informational notices, pass it on cards, and all other information that we had about the policy change with the hopes that they would be able to remove a barrier that presented itself from this population, such as mobility, and also transportation. In addition to partnering with existing CalFresh application assisters, the department reached out in collaborative efforts of others. You already know about Social Security Administration, and we also partnered with AARP. Now, this is really big for us because AARP tapped into their volunteer network for us, and we provided them with an overview of CalFresh to all of their volunteers during a town hall presentation. It was a webinar, and we provided them with the pass it on cards at a later date where they were able to distribute that through their network. So most of the ARP volunteers are now distributing the pass it on business size card that they can leave with folks to tell them how to connect with CalFresh. In addition to AARP, we partnered with the Los Angeles Care Health Plans here in Los Angeles, the entire county. And we have given them informational notices and pass it on cards and posters, and they're promoting this policy change at 6 of their family resource centers and have also added a whole message to inform LA Care callers of the policy change and how to apply. And lastly, the department, our director, Mrs. Antonia Jimenez, has a PSA YouTube video that we have published throughout the community and has shared it with other county departments to play, announcing the policy change and how easy it is to apply. So those were the two things that we did in the efforts or under the strategies for outreach. And lastly, we have our Intake Customer Service Center. Now, this is a dedicated customer service center that accepts applications by phone, securing the signature telephonically, completing the interview right there on the spot, and also being able to ensure that we're able to upload verifications if that is needed. And we are really seeing a great success with our intake call center where we are seeing same-day approvals, which, is also always welcome. I will be remiss if I don't shout out or tell you guys about our Code for America partnership. As you guys know, we receive a large volume of applications from Code for America. The department's partnership started with Code for America August 8th of 2018. So the additional, scope of their responsibilities through SSA really showed us a boost. As of July 2019, we had received over 22,758 applications just from this population, either consisting of SSA individuals and our in-home supportive services workers using that platform to submit CalFresh applications to us. So things are going great here in Los Angeles. We have a couple of more ideas that we're trying to formulate and or implement so we can trend up, because we did see our numbers drop a bit with the number of applications, and we know that there is still a population that we need to reach. So in closing, I would say that we're happy to announce that approximately 127,185 SSI recipients have been enrolled in the program here in LA, which is 52% of our goal. I'll take any questions at the end.
Thank you, Delora. I'm glad to hear not only that you are on track to meet your targets, but that you are thinking about what's next for that last boost, if you will, to hit those numbers. So next up we have Javier Duran and Devin Anderson joining us from Imperial County, and a big shout out to them. It's their first time joining the all stakeholder meeting, so we really appreciate their update. If you guys are on the line, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. This is Javier Duran. I'm a Deputy
Great.
Director for the CalWorks Division and the Universal Intake Section. To address the SSI population, the expansion here, we did a couple of different things. We started off about in March, looking and educating our CBOs. That was one of the biggest things we did. Our CBOs were starving for information. They wanted to know how to really expedite our process and to make sure that they were turning in the correct information to us so that they can make that customer experience just a lot smoother. So we had a few workshops here at the office with various CBOs, and we did a lot of outreach into our remote community, because Imperial County, for those that may or may not know, we're in the southeast corner of California, bordering the Mexican border and Arizona and San Diego. So we're more of a desert community, and there's only 2 offices here and a whole lot of area to cover. So in using our family resource centers and our mobile offices, along with meetings with other department leaders and agencies, the education began to really explain the outreach and what we need here for these applications. Once we did go live, the e-apps were one of our major increases. Here, because the weather was already about 100 degrees when this started, our foot traffic was not as much as our e-applications. So what we did there is we really centralized all of those e-applications into one caseload, where we had various workers going into that caseload doing a screening for those that were qualified for ES. They would get their appropriate appointments, and those that were not were then given a regular appointment with our intake workers. One of the changes we did do is we do run on a universal intake model, where one worker handles all program applications. When the expansion came, we decided to go to more what we would call traditional Medi-Cal CalFresh worker and a CalWorks worker. What this enabled us to do is really to increase the amount of applications that those Medi-Cal CalFresh workers could take, and we really focused on the CalFresh component. Once the applications reached out to maybe 2 weeks out on our intake workers, then the entire eligibility floor was utilized to take applications on a rotation basis. That was kind of what we did more on the intake side. Mr. Anderson can then cover what we did on the ongoing side as well as the IHSS side.
With the ongoing side, well, one of the things that we had to deal with was applications coming from every direction, basically. We have 2 different office locations, one for intake, one for ongoing, and we were receiving applications at our ongoing location. So the ongoing workers went ahead and accepted those applications, screened for expedited, and then processed the application rather than trying to route it back over to the intake worker. In addition to that, we began working with the IHSS social workers to complete applications whenever they did their reassessments or initial assessments. And that project with IHSS actually gave us 310 applications directly from the customer's home. As you can see with some of the numbers that are listed there, we had an ongoing case increase of 1,213 with individual increases 1,806. Now, might not seem like a whole lot, but as one of the smaller counties compared to the 3 counties previously, our caseload count prior was around 15,000. So we add that 1,213. And our individual count was around 38,000, so we added that 1,806. But the applications, you can definitely see that we had an application increase between 2018 and 2019 during the June through August period. The number of applications received increased by 52%. PA applications approved increased by 824%. And then the NA, very little, 1%, with a total of 48% increase in how many applications were disposed in our county. So you can see that it was definitely one of those all hands on deck kind of things. One of the things that really helped out as well was we had all of our caseloads that contained the elderly disabled, such as our Quimby-only caseloads, IHSS, Craig versus Bonta, things along those lines. We actually made phone calls to them rather than waiting for them to come to us. And that really helped out, overloaded some, but it really helped out on the customer side. And that's basically what we've got.
Well, thank you for joining us. I feel like we've taken a tour across California, and we'll continue with updates from our food bank partners. So we have Stephanie Michaud with the California Association of Food Banks and Amy Dearlam with the River City Food Bank for an update from our food bank partners. So I'm guessing Stephanie's going to kick us off. Stephanie?
Thank you, and thanks for having me. And before I get started, I also want to just say kudos to CDSS for making this all happen. You got a tall order in a really short timeline, and you pulled everybody together and aligned all the stakeholders and engaged everybody, and I think you just did a fantastic job. And now there are all these people who are getting CalFresh who previously weren't, so congratulations. And but I'm going to go ahead and jump in because I only have a few minutes. So similar to the bar graphs that Alexis showed earlier, or let me back up actually. CESB it has a contract with the California Department of Social Services to do CalFresh outreach along with our 50 plus partners throughout the state who are providing CalFresh application assistance in their communities to community members. So overall, our network in Q3, which was April, May, and June, saw a huge spike in applications similar to the data that Alexis showed earlier. As compared to our Q2 numbers, there was about there were 2.5 times as many applications and more than twice as many as there were in Q3 of last year. So there was just a ton of activity in May and June, as the bar graphs showed. Our partners have been reporting that they have new partnerships in their communities that they're pretty excited about with Social Security offices, senior housing, and senior centers. They're also reporting strengthened partnerships with their counties. Also, more clients with disabilities and also more clients who are ages 60 plus. And some of our folks are focusing on CSFP sites, which are food distribution sites for older adults. And we have one partner who reported that prior to expansion, older adults made up about 5% of his clients, and now older adults make up 95% of his clients. In addition, our partners are providing trainings to partners in their communities. They're reporting that now application processing times at the counties are getting back to normal, whereas before they were in many places delayed. Now they're kind of getting back to regular, and that could be because of the drop-off in applications, which I think indicates the success of all the outreach campaign and the mailers and whatnot that CDSS did earlier. In addition, they mentioned a few challenges, particularly around clients who are getting SSI only getting the minimum benefit, and then there are some questions about whether applicants are getting the deductions that they're eligible for. At the CAFB level, we partnered with CDSS to provide training for CDSS's new partners through the California Department of Aging Department of Developmental Services and Department of Rehabilitation. So we were able to train the area agencies on aging, the regional centers, and the independent living centers. And then calls to our office have tapered off quite a bit, but we still probably get 1 or 2 a day. So that is our brief overview, and I will turn it over to Amy for a client story.
I'll just ask you to stand near the microphone. Gotcha. And can we talk 5 minutes-ish? Yeah. Okay. Clear about that. So I actually brought a story in. So, yeah. Go for it. So I will mention that I come from River City Food Bank here in Sacramento, and I'm the CalFresh Outreach Director. And I'm going to give you a story about Joe, who we found at a hotel that had been converted into efficiency apartments here in downtown. And actually, the manager of the apartments approached us a couple years ago, found out that we do CalFresh Outreach, said, would you come in, do some presentation in our lobby, and then help with applications. So we did that, and from that we found Joe. Joe is a senior living there, had medical issues, and had been applying for SSI but had been denied. And so he had no income, was not paying any rent, and so we helped him get on CalFresh, got the maximum amount. We were able to talk about the food bank, that he could come to the food bank in addition to getting his CalFresh. Great story there. This was a couple years ago. Saw Joe occasionally at the food bank, and then kind of didn't see him for a while. He came in one day about a year ago, came in very excited. He had gotten his SSI, all excited. Of course, then he had to share that he didn't get his CalFresh anymore. Bit of a disappointment, and now he had rent, and now he had co-pays for his medical situation. So it was a struggle, still a struggle. So a bit disappointed, didn't realize that when he got his SSI, the CalFresh was going to be dropped. Didn't see Joe for a while again, and kind of wondered about him. And then we developed, in preparing for the SSI expansion, we developed flyers for all our partners around the county. And I brought a copy of the flyer. And so we just kind of blasted all our partners with the flyer. And Joe contacted us, saw the flyer in his hotel lobby, or I guess it's now an efficiency, but it's still considered a hotel at this point, and called us and said, I want to try to get back on. So we then got arrangements with the manager to come back down because transportation's an issue, and helped him get on. Now, with the SSI income, and with now the housing being Section 8, 30% of his income, he was eligible for how much? Do you think he was eligible for? 15, right. So, as we find with a lot of the SSI folks, now it's 16, I know as of today, but when we helped him at 15, you know, gosh, is this even worth it? And unfortunately, some of the advertising that had gone out did mention some averages, and people kind of had this expectation. Word got out, they thought they were going to get about an average of 100, 120. So when they hit a 15, it's very disappointing and kind of feels like it's not worth it. So we had developed, so 2 things when people do that. We talk about the market match, which was mentioned earlier in the San Francisco farmers market, but we have our market matches here in Sac County, and we really stress that, hey, that 15 could turn into 30 if you could use $30 at the farmers market, and that usually perks them up. And then the other thing is that I developed a couple of years ago is my $15 bag, grocery bag. So just because it's a great visual and people love it. So I usually try to take it whenever I can. So we say, what are you going to do with $15? Okay. So I talk about, what do people like for breakfast? Oatmeal, you got it. Especially on these cold mornings. So I got my box of oatmeal, 6 packets. So that'll do me for hopefully 6 mornings. Keep me pretty full for the morning. But if I don't want oatmeal, what's maybe more on the weekends? What would you have for breakfast on the weekends? Eggs is a good one. I like eggs. Toast. How about something a little more elaborate? Just a little more prep. Pancakes. Okay, so I got my pancake mix. And what do we put on pancakes? Syrup. And I've got my syrup. Now, I personally like maple syrup, but you know, we're the store where we're getting dollar items, okay? So, but I got my maple syrup there as well. Now, I also mentioned at the food bank or at the store, I might have been able to get my butter or the milk that I may have needed to add with this. So we're always talking about how you can add to it. So for lunch, what do people like for lunch? Lunch meat. Okay, may have gotten the lunch meat at the food bank or the food at the store. But we have peanut butter and jelly sandwiches sometimes. So I got my roasted jelly. I'm going to get my bread at the food bank. I'm going to possibly get my peanut butter at the food bank. Or on a cold day, I might want my soup. All right, so I try to find the name brands so people feel like, you know, there's some quality stuff that you can get at a low price. So I've got my Campbell's chicken noodle soup. Or another item might be a tuna fish salad sandwich. I've got my tuna fish. I have one gentleman that gets $15. He buys 15 cans of tuna. That's like a luxury for him. He loves it. So the other item that I might get is baked beans and hot dogs. Another great combination. I got my hot dog buns at the food bank, if I went to the food bank. And then we have for dinner. Now, actually, I get hungry in the afternoon. Anybody get hungry in the afternoon? 3 or 4 o'clock? I'm starting to look at my desk or something. I got my chicken salad and with the crackers, or your tuna salad or whatever. So that gives you that. And then, or I do nuts. Again, I'm looking for a protein to keep me full. I've got my pistachio nuts, a bag of pistachio nuts. And then for dinner, I love pasta. And you can see I do love pasta. So I got my box of pasta. That's going to last me for several dinners. And what do we put with pasta? Tomato sauce. And I find Hunt's tomato sauce with meat. Okay, so I got my protein in there as well. Again, Hunt's, you're, a nice, recognized brand. And or I might have gotten some ground beef at the store or at the food bank. So I'm going to take my manwich and add that to it. I got my hamburger buns at the food bank as well. May have even gotten cheese there as well to drizzle on it. So I'm kind of running out of room out of my table. Normally I have a bigger table to work with. But you get the idea. It's just spread out. Last but not least, a couple of items to help me with my cooking. I've got my olive oil, all right, to cook with and or to drizzle over my pasta, okay, or over my vegetables. And a couple other items, I've got my spray cooking oil as well. Might have been good for the pancakes or anything that I'm cooking. And last but not least, I'm going to do a salad because I got fresh vegetables at the farmer's market, and I was able to double that with the market match, and I got my salad dressing. Okay, so that's how I utilize my $15. And by the way, with the Dollar Tree or Dollar Store, the bag is going to be free. You don't have to pay for the bag. All right? So with that, people are a little more happy to get the $15. Yeah.
Thank you, Amy. And for those on the phone, there was a great visual here. We'll take a photo and send it out. So I do want to keep us moving to our next presenter. Last but not least, we have a report from Linda Wonderly, who's with the California Department on Aging, talking a little bit about what's happening with our local area agencies on aging. So Linda, if you're there, you can take it away.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon. To give you a little background, CDA works in conjunction with the Area Agencies on Aging, or AAAs, to provide a broad scope of services targeted specifically to older adults, 60 and older, and adults with disabilities in all 58 counties. The 33 AAAs may be county agencies, nonprofits, joint powers, and even a university-affiliated agency. 31 of these 33 AAAs participate in CalFresh expansion. These AAAs have really embraced CalFresh expansion, which provides them with an opportunity to enhance the services that they bring to older adults. The AAAs and their service providers are trusted resources for their clients and are in an ideal position to help older adults access CalFresh food benefits. The AAAs are in various stages of implementing the program. Some of them are seeing early success, so I wanted to share what's working well. One of the most important aspects has been agency-wide outreach and assistance. The AAAs are tapping into all departments under their agency umbrella. CalFresh outreach takes place during information and assistance calls, which are all the incoming calls, at the nutrition program sites, through their case management work, through HICAP, which is the Health Insurance Counseling and Advocacy Program, and through CSEP, which is the Senior Employment Program, and other programs. They also tap into their service providers and advisory councils, who in turn share CalFresh messaging through their networks, and it continues to grow. The AAAs have the ability to reach older adults where they are. They connect with older adults at sites where programs and services are offered. For example, they reach older adults at congregate meal sites, such as senior centers and community centers, in the home of clients who receive services at home, such as home-delivered meals, at senior housing complexes, and at events such as health fairs and farmers markets. Having an effective process for pre-screening and transition over to application assistance has also been a key to success. INA staff, or information and assistance staff, screen every caller by asking if they're familiar with CalFresh. They utilize a script to raise awareness about CalFresh, complete a pre-screen, and take action to ensure clients receive application assistance. Connecting with clients is often done in several steps. For example, CalFresh messaging may be provided to congregate meal clients to generate interest. And then staff provides a CalFresh presentation during a lunch, and then they schedule face-to-face appointments for application assistance. Next slide, please. There's some best practices that the AAAs are finding are important keys to their success. The first is being an advocate for the client to ensure they're able to maximize their food benefit amount, especially given that medical deductions are only available to those 60 and older or disabled. It's been important for the AAAs to let clients know about medical deductions and use a tool to prompt clients to identify all possible deductions. Follow-through is another key to success. AAAs check back in with their clients to ensure that they were contacted for their interview and that the process is moving along. Some are taking it further, checking back weekly until benefits are confirmed and assisting with any questions or challenges. The third best practice is reaching older adults in rural areas. Often older adults in rural areas lack resources to access the programs and services that they need. Targeted CalFresh efforts in these areas ensure older adults are aware of the opportunity and receive assistance to apply for CalFresh benefits. And I also wanted to share some general feedback that the AAAs have received from older adults that they've assisted. Clients appreciate that the AAA makes it so easy to apply. They have clients who say that they feel supported in the process and they're relieved that they don't have to do it alone. And clients feel empowered by being knowledgeable about the process and especially what to expect for their interview. So to conclude, CDA and the AAAs are excited to have this opportunity to play a role in assisting older adults in accessing CalFresh food benefits.
Right. Thank you, Laura, and to all our presenters who made time to join us today and prepare for some updates. So given that we are just 15 minutes out from the end of our webinar, I am going to move through the remaining content a little quicker than anticipated, but I'll get us to some of the essentials, if you will. We'll go to the next slide, Shayna, and start with a review of our 4 implementation strategies. We'll go updates through that 4-pronged approach. And the first being on the next slide, to engage and empower clients. And so you know that we have tried to weave this into our stakeholder engagement process. And what I'll say before we transition to the next slide today about this is where we're particularly looking for feedback through our survey on how to continue engaging and empowering clients in our work to improve CalFresh access overall. And as we launch that 2020 stakeholder engagement process, how we can keep this as one of our kind of overarching themes, frameworks, and keep us oriented to our clients, which really should be at the center of all that we do. So our next strategy was to target outreach for awareness and assistance. And I'll go ahead and take us to the next slide for some updates. We are still focused on getting the word out, making sure that all eligible SSI recipients can access CalFresh food benefits. One of the items that we've continued to do is build in more accessible communications. And so I will highlight, I'm not going to play it for us, but I will highlight that the calfreshfood.org page now has an ASL video. So if you want to take a look at that, please visit calfreshfood.org. You'll have to scroll down a little bit, but that video has been posted and was developed in partnership with our community of partners who were able to provide the translation services. So I will let you all watch that video as a homework assignment. So we will go to our next update, which is the Radio PSA campaign. So the CalFresh expansion radio campaign has now come to a close. We had a PSA radio campaign running from August through September in 14 markets across about 36 counties, or 36 counties to be exact. And we will have outcome measures available November 2019. So one of the key questions here as we kind of roll out these outreach efforts is, what was the outcome? Did it have the intended impact? Is this a strategy that we can use again to continue keeping our volume high? So we will be looking for outcome and key indicators in November as that data is available to us. Next slide, please. So it's not just radio. Next up, we are launching the CalFresh expansion social media component of our outreach campaign. So this component will focus on 3 target populations: older adults, people with disabilities, and caregivers. You've kind of seen those target populations in our materials. And the goal here is really to continue spreading the word, capitalizing on the fact that many people who themselves are newly eligible or who know someone who may be newly eligible are online and engaged in social media. So we're going to have a little video screening here if the technology will cooperate with us. And we're going to play one of the video spots. There is a collection of 3 videos. We'll first take a look at the caregivers video, and then we will let everybody see the other videos on their own. But to give you a sense of what will be shared through social media. And we'll talk a little bit about making these available. So
these are for us, and these I'm taking next door to Mom.
Wow, that's a lot more than usual. How do we afford all this?
We didn't. I signed Mom up for CalFresh food benefits. They will buy even more fresh food.
I thought we made too much money to get benefits.
It turns out our income doesn't matter. They only look at Mom's income and expenses. And owning a home didn't disqualify her.
It must have taken hours to apply.
It only took 15 minutes to see if she was eligible. I applied for Mom online with her ID and proof of income and expenses. Then I had a short phone call with a county social service worker. A few weeks later, the EBT card arrived by mail. And since Mom made me authorized representative, I can manage her benefits and buy her groceries for her.
Ah, that does sound easy. Well, then I guess there's just one thing left to do. Help my parents apply for CalFresh food benefits too.
Go to calfreshfood.org, call 1-877-847-FOOD, or visit your local county social service office to see if your friend or loved one is eligible today.
So as follow-up to this meeting, what we'll have available are the 3 videos in long form, and then there are short form videos as well that are about 15-second versions that can be posted online onto your community-based organization websites. We do hope that they make an appearance on your Facebook accounts, on Twitter, that you retweet us when we put those up. And then the videos will be available on our website for you to download the code, and you can embed the videos on your own kind of platforms, social media networks, and pass those along. So really excited to get those out, and again, trying to connect with a variety of audiences who may be SSI recipients or know someone who is, and can spread the word about CalFresh. I also want to highlight that for the counties on the line, there will be a second round of the FDX data file that is shared. So now that we're a few months into implementation, we'll be sharing another data set of potential SSI recipients that have, or on SSI, and then you run the data match at the county level to determine who might be a target for a second round of outreach because they are not yet on CalFresh. So that is coming soon with September data. And then Postcard 2.0 is under development so that you can also continue engaging SSI recipients who may not have yet applied for CalFresh. So all in the works. Okay, our next strategy was to streamline the customer experience. And primarily, you've kind of seen this roll out via the toolkit. So I'll jump to the next slide and highlight that the Framework of Solutions Resource Toolkit 4.0, it just keeps growing, is now online. A couple of additions to highlight. We have Bernardino talking points for staff when interacting with customers who are SSI recipients. Ventura County has also shared talking points to be used when clients are looking for more information about the expansion. we've got the Ventura County standard medical deduction badge samples. I know a lot of their eligibility workers are wearing these badges to prompt not only clients but themselves to remember to ask about those expenses. And then Santa Barbara has a flyer for, developed in collaboration with in-home supportive services in their county about the benefits of CalFresh. So those are available on our website. And then with the remaining time, I want to primarily jump to a few data updates that are available based on the CalFresh data dashboard tool. So we'll go ahead and just highlight that June, July, and August data is now available on the dashboard. I'm going to walk through a couple of data graphs, again, all based on the data available on the dashboard. We're presenting them here today on a statewide basis, but you can definitely go in and look at these numbers county by county, kind of run your own analysis. The raw data itself is available behind the visualization tool. So I know we've gotten a lot of questions about how to make visualizations like this handy dandy little thermometer. You can pull that data out and run your own analysis. So this slide here is just a little thermometer kind of showing visually progress toward our implementation target. So as you'll remember, when we first launched this effort, we had a goal of enrolling about 400,000 SSI recipients who were estimated to be newly eligible and to participate in CalFresh. So as of August, we've enrolled 278,000 individual SSI recipients. So are making significant progress toward that goal. And of course, lots to do as we head toward December. You'll see across the board that the volume is decreasing. So that second round of outreach, targeted messaging, really critical now as we enter the last few months of implementation for this initial 6-month phase. So then we'll go to the next slide. So this is a bar graph based on the dashboard data showing you the new CalFresh households with SSI recipients that were received since implementation and processed. So what you'll see here, I'll just walk you through this, is in June we had a peak of 108 approximately 1,000 approved households that included in the SSI recipient member. For that month, we had just about 7,500 cases that were denied. And then the bar graph goes on over to August to show the total approved and total denied for each month. And again, you can look at this data county by county. What we're seeing is that the denial rate is holding relatively low in comparison to our total CalFresh caseload. This is good news, right? We expect that a lot of households, especially of 1 and 2, who apply will be eligible for at least some benefits. And we will be digging in our future analysis to what is driving those denials so we can get it even smaller. So we'll go to the next slide. So here, this is another visual. It kind of goes along with the thermometer, so the numbers will match up. But again, just the total number of SSI recipients receiving CalFresh by month of implementation. Next slide. Okay, this next pie chart is an update on the impact of the expansion on our ongoing caseload. So what this pie chart shows you is of the ongoing CalFresh households who implemented the expansion. So this is a subset of the ongoing CalFresh caseload that did implement the expansion either through their SAR 7 recertification or voluntary request. What was the outcome of implementing the expansion? And you'll see that of the total who implemented, just over or just under 19,000 saw an increase in benefits and stayed on CalFresh. And this is statewide, and it's a cumulative by August 2019. Just over 19,000 transitioned from only CalFresh to CalFresh and SMB, so that means they experienced a decrease in CalFresh benefits. And just about 3,800 lost eligibility as a result and transitioned to the Transitional Nutrition Benefit Program. Now, overall, these ratios are lining up roughly with our estimates. I will say that on this particular graph, we really won't know the total kind of breakdown proportional share until 6 months, a year, as we see that caseload implement the expansion. And we can tell now if, for example, folks who were more likely to see an increase implemented on a voluntary basis and they waited for their SAR 7 or recertification. So while the proportions are looking like they match our estimates, it'll take some more time to see if we had the right proportional share estimated for each of those populations. And that, again, is just because we don't know how many folks came in ahead of their SAR 7 or recert that may have landed into one of the pie slices, if you will. So we'll go ahead and jump to the next slide. I want to highlight what you'll see next on the data dashboard. We will be adding additional data elements in phases through the end of 2019. So coming up next, I think we're scheduled for the end of October. You'll see SMB and TMB program demographics and characteristics, so you'll learn more about that population. And then through November, more details about these newly eligible households. So really key questions around the average benefit amount, average household size, utilization of the medical deduction, as well as the homeless shelter deduction, which will tell us something about the population that we're serving and what is driving the benefit amounts that we're seeing, and more. We've have quite a list of data elements that we'll be posting, and we're working hard with the eligibility systems to make sure that we can get that up. All right, so that was the speedy version of our slideshow. I will, before we kind of wrap up here, I will put just one more plug on the next slide to please participate in the Stakeholder Engagement Survey and let us know what you think as we head into 2020. Again, we'll send out the link. It'll be posted on our site, and responses are due by October 18th. As well, all the materials from today's webinar, the recording will be posted online, and then we're going to be keeping that page up. So for prosperity, if you will, we'll have all the materials from the expansion engagement stakeholder process posted online. And I know that we do have a few questions coming in. I think I tried to tackle them throughout my kind of last talking points. So what we'll do, given that we have 2 minutes left, if we'll go ahead and wrap up, for those folks that are in the room, we can stay back and answer questions. And for those folks on the line, if we didn't touch on your question, we will follow up via email. Kathy is taking notes. And I really just want to end, again, emphasizing our gratitude for the level of engagement that we saw over, I don't know, a year and 4 months now, and there's still more to come. So, you know, I think as Stephanie mentioned, we appreciate the positive feedback, but we also want to share it with you that it's been a great overall process, and having that strong partner network has been critical. So thank you for joining us today, and we will, as they say, stay in touch. I'm not sure it's not the last time we'll talk about expansion or CalFresh in general, so thank you for joining us on the phone.